Heffron, and you are witnessing the Brick Cave universe. We are here at Little Toy Bodega, and I'm with Sharon Skinner. Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
We are in lovely downtown Mesa. We are closed, we are possibly not actually streaming live, but we may be streaming live.
One moment, please.
I'm just going to keep talking just in case people.
There we go.
We're actually going now.
We are going now.
Hey everybody, sorry for that great intro. We have some issues this morning, but this is the Brick Cave universe. I am Brent Heffron. We are at Mirabella Toy Bodega in lovely downtown Mesa, and I am with Sharon Skinner.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk to Sharon. Sharon is an author for Brick Cave, has a bunch of different works, a bunch of different things that are published, which we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about where you can see her coming up, and talks about all types of good things today. So before we get going, Sharon, tell me how you got started a little bit, just real brief, with Brick Cave, and more importantly, just with the writing and everything.
Well, actually, my first book with Brick Cave was a book of poetry and short stories and articles and essays where I talk about my time in the military, where I was one of the first women aboard ship in the U.S. Navy. So I was on part of the first contingency of women that went to sea.
That's awesome.
So my first book with Brick Cave was basically poetry and short stories, and then in 1995 I wrote a novel, and it was not very well written, but
okay.
I drafted it, and I spent a number of years then learning how to better my craft and learn to revise and edit and be a better storyteller. And I revised the book, and then I wrote another book in 2006, which actually got picked up as a novel by Brick Cave in 2012, and that would be The Healer's Legacy.
Okay.
That would be this book here.
That lovely book. And when you published that, what type of responses did you get?
I got really good response. This was originally written as a young adult novel, but I have readers 11 and up, all the way up, men and women reading this book and enjoying it. So that's really a good feeling, because when you write a YA novel, you don't necessarily know if you'll get a crossover audience.
Sure.
You know, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Right.
And in this case, I got huge crossover, so it's really nice.
Awesome. For those who have not read the book, can you give a quick synopsis of that world?
Yeah, this is the story of a young woman escaping from a bad relationship. The twist is the guy she's running from is the local warlord, so he's got an entire army of mercenaries chasing her across the continent. And her only edge is that she can telepathically communicate with animals, so she travels with a large hunting cat and a miniature dragon. And as I so often tell people, who doesn't want to travel with a cat and a dragon?
That's pretty awesome. My daughters would be very jealous of that, actually. That's pretty cool, as my wife would, so that's cool. Okay, and then you actually wrote the follow-up to that book, right?
Yep. The sequel to that book just came out in November of last year, in 2015. It's called The Matriarch's Devise, and it is the sequel to The Healer's Legacy, and it continues Kira's journey. So basically what happened was I wrote The Healer's Legacy. I left a few threads loose, but I really wrote it so it could be a standalone book. But I had so many readers asking what happens next. We need to know what happened next. That I went ahead and put together The Matriarch's Devise, which is the next leg of Kira's hero's journey, if you will. And I am now working on the third book that will close out as a trilogy.
Nice, nice. And so have you spoken to your readers who read the second one a little bit?
Yeah, reviews have been coming in, and they're good, which is nice, because one of the hardest parts about writing a sequel to a book that people fell in love with is the fear that you won't serve up
those expectations.
Yeah, another helping of what they loved.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I just wanted to make sure that I delivered. Sure. So it took a little longer than people had hoped it would to get this book out, but I wanted quality over efficiency.
Sure.
And what's happening is I'm getting a lot of great reviews back from people saying that this book, in some people are saying it's even better than the first,
awesome.
Which is pretty fabulous.
Yeah.
That's high praise in my opinion, because I got pretty high praise for the first book, so that makes me very happy. That means I really have to bring it on home with the third book.
Yeah, no pressure at all.
None at all.
Yeah, I remember. I've been around Brick Cave booths for a while, and they've always been asking, what about the second one? What about the second one? So it's very cool to see that you were able to deliver the way that you wanted to. Now, so I'm always curious about people who write fantasy and stuff, like what their motivation or what they're pulling from, because obviously you have a fairly big cat, but you don't have a dragon, right? So like, when you started writing this character, you came up with what was the future or what the world was going to look like. What did you pull from, to create that world?
People ask me a lot of times, where do the stories come from?
Sure.
It's a similar question.
Yeah.
Where does the world come from? And for me, everything I do is very character driven. Some people come from plot to build their world and their characters and their stories. I come from character and build the plot and the story and everything around it. And I very often feel a bit like a journalist, following my characters around and just writing down what they do and what they see and what they experience. It's less of a purposeful, I think I'll create a miniature dragon, and more of a, she happens to have a miniature dragon. That's cool. I'm writing that in, So for me, it's a lot of very subconscious churn that takes place and that I allow it to find its way into the books. But one of the things that I tell people, and I'll tell all writers this, you need to feed the beast in order to be able to write well. You need to be a reader, and you need to read broad and wide. To me, that's filling the hopper of the subconscious, and that's what allows all that interesting stuff to then come back out as part of the story.
So aside from the books you mentioned, you have a few other books with Brick Cave. Want to talk about those a little bit?
I do. I have what's not a traditional fantasy with Brick Cave. It's actually a paranormal, bit of an urban fantasy almost. It's a ghost story, but it's not your typical ghost story. It's a story of a girl and her mother who move into a house that turns out to be haunted, and the only one who can see the ghost is Mirabella. But this ghost has been in this house for a long time, and it's faded away and forgotten why it's in the house. And since Mirabella and the ghost have something in common, they're both actually lonely, they become friends. It sounds kind of nice, right? But then the house is scheduled to be torn down, and Mirabella realizes that in order to help her friend, she has to unravel the mystery of the ghost and why it's in the house. So it's a bit of a mystery.
Nice. And what's the age range of that?
This was written for 8 and up, so really the target sweet spot for an audience would be 8 to 14. But I have adults reading this book, and I'll have a lot of adults who read all of my books, which is very cool. So I have fans who will read anything I write now, which is really kind of exciting. So I do have some adult readers in love with this book as well. So.
Cool. And you brought one book, the Nether Stones.
And then for my younger readers, this is my young middle grade fantasy. It was targeted at readers 7 to 12. 10 and 11-year-old boys have been giving me wonderful reviews on this book. Parents are asking me to write additional books in kind, because I had a mother come up to me the other day and say, do you have any other books he would read? Because he wasn't reading, and now he's read this book and he will read it again. And so for reluctant readers, this is a good read. It's the story of 2 kids who bump into each other in the middle of the desert and get magically transported to a land where dragons rule, fairies carry swords, and they have to find 5 magic stones in order to get home. But the bigger problem is they're not the only ones looking for those magic stones. So's this big bad dragon here on the cover. So it's a bit of an exciting adventure, and takes place in a completely different world. It's a portal fantasy. So.
Nice. So I know, like you said, the characters, your character-driven in the ways that you write. So does that also dictate, because these are very different themes in your books? You're also aiming at different age ranges. So do you keep that in mind as you're writing? Like, I'm trying to write for this, or how does that come to be?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I never write down my readers.
Sure.
When you're writing children's books or young adult books, you are still writing books, and there used to be a misconception out there that, it's a children's book,
Sure.
You just throw it together. Yeah, and that's not true. You need to be telling an engaging story with fully rounded characters, a true plot. Something has to be happening at all times. You really have to work on your craft to keep the reader engaged at whatever age. And especially younger readers now, because there are so many distractions out there for younger readers. Electronic games, the phone, everything. There's so much out there to do that to get them to sit and read a book. The story has to really suck them in and keep them there. Some of my favorite comments from people about my books are that I've made people late for work. I've kept people up all night. People have missed sleep. I've had parents tell me that children have gotten in trouble for having a flashlight under the covers in order to finish reading my book well past bedtime. And those are my favorite kinds of reviews, because it means that I've sucked the reader into my world, and now it's our world, and they want to be there, and they want to spend time with the characters.
Right.
And that's huge. That means I've done my job.
So with your characters, do you have one that you, I guess, favor more than others, one that's kind of more close to your heart?
Well, okay, so when you talk to writers, and there's that whole write what you know thing.
Sure.
First of all, write what you know does not mean I know anything about traveling with a miniature dragon.
Absolutely
All
not.
their life. Well, my own world maybe, but it's really more about write what you feel. In my opinion, it's write about the things that you really do know emotionally, and about relationships and feelings and how people interact in the world and how you interact with the world. And those are the kind of write what you knows, because that's what grounds a reader in the story and makes it real for them. And then the characters, of course, there's always a certain level of autobiographical information. There's bits and pieces of all of it, writers in their own characters, and in their villains as well as their heroes. So I don't write Mary Sue's, I don't write heroes that are just representations of me. My characters are very flawed. That doesn't mean that that's not an autobiographical aspect, because sometimes it is. But I want to write very real characters with very real goals and very real conflicts that make it real for the reader. And I want characters that aren't perfect, because, who wants to hang around with a perfect person all the time? Right. It gets old, and you start to feel like, well, it's not fun to hang around with somebody who's so perfect. So you need flawed characters.
I wouldn't know, but okay.
We need flawed characters to make them interesting, to make them pleasant to be around, and to give them a reason to have a story.
Right.
And so that's what I really work toward in my books, is helping these characters on their journeys find their way despite their flaws, or against all odds, or whatever it is they come up against. And often my characters don't know that they're heroes. They start out doubting themselves and learning to come to terms with who they are.
So you mentioned working on the third book, right?
Yes.
Any other future projects that are coming?
I have several things in the works. I'm working right now also on a YA urban fantasy. It's currently, the working title on it is Colors and Curses. It's about a young teenage girl who literally does not fit in her own skin because she's genetically a werewolf. And then, so it's her trying to navigate all of that as well as high school at the same time.
Sure.
And then I'm working on a sequel to The Stones, because I've been asked a number of times for a foray back into this world. So I have a story outlined that I have started writing as a sequel to The Stones. And then I have another project in the works that I'm really excited about, but I can't talk about.
That's fair.
Yeah, so...
look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, so I have an announcement that hopefully will be coming up in the next couple of months on another project. So.
Now you've got a couple of events coming up where people can come and see you, right? You want to talk about that? Absolutely.
In April, it's the weekend of the 9th and the 10th of April. I'll be at the LA Times Festival of Books. I believe the booth number is 156 at LA Times Festival of Books. I'll be there the whole weekend. And I do have a nice following in LA now. So I have people who come up and want to know, do you have the next book? Do you have that sort of thing? So please come out and see me. I'll be there signing books all weekend. And then in May, the first weekend in May, I will actually be in San Diego at the Mysterious Galaxy Birthday Bash with a large group of other authors signing and selling books at Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore in San Diego. I'm really excited about being out there. with Jeannie Koch and a number of other authors, so some friends of mine, and seeing Mary Elizabeth, who is part of the Mysterious Galaxy ownership team, and she's so fabulous, and I just can't wait to see her because it's been a while. And then the end of May, here in downtown Mesa again, beautiful downtown Mesa, we will be having the Cirque de Livre, which is a writers' conference, and I will be doing some panels and some talks at that. And till the end of this month, registration for that is still considered early bird. It's extremely cost-effective. Go check it out. Get registered. Come on out. There'll be speed dating with a publisher. There will be people talking about how they self-publish, how they've navigated the realms of being hybrid published, so self-published with some small press, maybe big press, and some mixtures. People talking about which paths might be of interest to writers out there. We'll be talking about craft, ways to hone your craft and improve your odds of not only getting published, but having a readership that will continue to follow you. Because, you want to give your readers a good read, a good solid read that will make them come back. Like I said, people come back and buy my next book, because they love the worlds, they love the engagement, and I purposely work very hard on my craft to ensure that that's the case for my readers. I don't want to put out a first draft book and then just say, oh, here, I wrote this, I want something that's a high enough quality that people will fall in love enough with the characters in the world that they want to keep coming back. So there'll be all sorts of great stuff for writers to come out and whatever aspect of writing you're interested in, I think it'll be represented at CERC.
Very cool. Now, I want to say how cool it is because I've known you for so long, and you're always now doing events, right? Like you become kind of this, celebrity, going to do this, going to do that, which is awesome because I've seen I can see all that develop. With that though, what do you like about going to those festivals and doing that? Because I know you do it a lot. So what are some of those upsides?
It takes time away from the writing, so that's hard. But I love to talk to fans about the books. I love to talk to readers about what else they're reading, what makes them tick, what parts of the books excite them. I just recently had a young gal, we were at the Tucson Festival of Books last weekend, and a young girl who'd come up, and she's been following me for a couple of years, and she had read the Nellick Stones, and she had read Mirabella, and now she'd stepped up and wanted to read Healers. So I now have a following of young people as well who are moving through my books, which is really, really fun to watch. And I signed books to 2 more Kiras this last event, which is always fun. Every time I get someone who comes up and goes, oh, my daughter's name is Kira, you must sign this book, that's pretty fabulous. I also do the Renaissance Festival. I go out there once a year, and I was just out there a couple of weekends ago selling books at the bookshop out there. And then in April, in addition to the LA Times Festival of Books, there's a Tempe book festival on one day the following weekend, and then the weekend after that is Kingman Area Books Are Magic. I'll be at both of those. Those are smaller events, but I have a following in these places, and so I really like going out and meeting the people who are reading my books. It's fun.
One last thing I want to talk about before we do, though, because I don't want to forget, where can people see you, websites, Facebooks, all that good stuff?
So my website is www.sharonskinner.com. I blog there weekly about various things. Sometimes it's about the craft of writing. Sometimes it's just about my process for writing. This week it was another blog post about my time in the military. I've had a lot of people asking me to start writing more about my military time. So as a female in the military back in the 70s, things were a bit different than they are today. So I've been blogging about that, and so there's that. There's always the Brick Cave Books website. You can go to Brick Cave Media, Brick Cave Books. Find me there. I'm on Facebook as Sharon Skinner, and then I'm also on Twitter at Sharon Skinner 56.
And just a reminder, most of the events as well as CERC and everything is on brickcavemedia.com as well. If you guys want to check that out and keep updated for all your news with Brick Cave, so check that out. So this last question, typically I ask people stuff about pop culture, maybe a movie that's come coming out, stuff like that. We just acknowledge how busy you are. I doubt you give a crap about a lot of the movies that are coming out right now, because quite frankly, you just don't have the time. Is that a fair first?
That's a really fair assessment.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I do give a crap.
Okay,
I
fair
care.
enough.
I'm looking. I see what's out there. I get excited about certain things. Do I have time to actually go see them?
Do anything with that excitement?
Typically, no.
Right.
So there's. Yeah, I'm kind of one of those. Yeah, I'm kind of one of those people. I get to the movie maybe once or twice a year.
Sure.
The rest of the time, it's a Netflix or it's a on demand or it's a wait till it comes out and just go buy the DVD, depending on the movie. You know, if it's something I think I know I'm going to want to own, I might just wait and buy the DVD.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm really behind. I haven't seen Ant-Man yet, and,
Right.
you know, and there's all these other things that are coming out that.
Yeah.
So the last thing I did see was the Star Wars movie.
Okay,
so
Star Wars.
So that was fun. You know, it's typical Star Wars stuff.
Absolutely.
So you know, you have to let yourself suspend some disbelief to get into that world and stay there. But
Sure.
I really liked the strong female hero because my books are full of strong female heroes. I liked the diversity of the cast. I think that it's about time that we had more diversity in our superheroes. So that would be the last thing. I think that I saw something coming up that looked interesting. The female Ghostbusters movie.
Okay, yeah.
That looks like it might be fun because again, women, you know,
Sure.
doing, you know, getting out there and being the heroes of a film. I like that. I'm interested in Wonder Woman. I haven't seen Wonder Woman, but
I think it comes out
yes,
end of the year or the next year.
Yeah, it's coming out. It's coming.
Yeah, she'll be in the Batman Superman movie that comes out next week.
Right, but she's getting her
Her
own
own,
movie.
thankfully, yeah.
That's a big deal to me. And it's interesting because I do write very strong female heroes, but because the Nellick Stones has a co-protagonist, has a boy and a girl, that's I think why I have 10 and 11-year-old boys loving on this book, because it's a journey of two kids who don't like each other when they start out, and they have to learn to work together.
Sure.
And it's a boy and a girl, and so I have readers across genders, reading it.
So, last question with Batman. So, most of the movies that you just mentioned, probably aside from Star Wars, and that was a sequel. So everything you mentioned is either a continuation of something or an adaptation of a comic book, or or a rerun like Ghostbusters. Which I agree actually looks really cool. And I actually think they're going to keep within the world because I didn't want them to make a new Ghostbusters movie, not because it was all women, just because if it doesn't have Dan Aykroyd in it, if it doesn't have Bill Murray, I don't want to see it, quite frankly. But I saw the trailer and I'm like, nah, I'm probably gonna watch this. This looks pretty cool. Is there anything that you read? Because I know you do a lot of reading. Any book that you've read where you're like, this should be a movie? Like this would be actually cool.
Well, I think my books should be
obviously.
But I think
presence and
every writer I think believes that. I read recently a book called A Snicker of Magic, and it's a younger reader's book. It was so well written. The world was very immersive. It was exceptionally well done, and it's about a small town in Tennessee where there used to be magic, and now magic, because of a duel that was fought by two magicians in the town, two brothers, magic went away. And there's been a curse on some of the people in the town.
Right.
And this girl and her mother and her sister end up going back to this town. And she realizes early on that maybe there's still a snicker of magic left in this town. And it's a beautifully written magical realism. And I really enjoyed it. And I know it's not intended at older readers, but I think it would make a lovely movie. I do think it would make a lovely movie.
What was the name of that?
A Snicker of Magic. And don't ask me who wrote it because I can't remember off the top of my head. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon, thank you for letting me talk to you and chat your ear off for a little while. Go see a movie if you get a chance, or just relax if you get a chance with everything that you're doing. But Sharon Skinner, check her out, and guys, we'll see you in a month. Thank you.
Thanks.